Good morning and welcome everybody who's joined the coffee hour this morning. I'd like to introduce Amber Freehoff. She is the NRCS CSP program manager and is currently currently assistant state conservationist for programs in the state of Colorado. Today she'll be talking about local work group meetings. And Amber, without further ado, we're going to kick this off. So,
all right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, CACB, for allowing us to come in and talk to conservation districts and just give some additional support on the local work groups. For those of you that were at CACD and went to the local work group workshop that we had as a breakout session, these slides are going to look awful familiar. So I guess if you were thinking about spring, these slides are going to take you back into December when it was cold. But so without further ado, so this is the local work group meeting. I'm the lead on it, but Liz With is our assistant state con for partnerships, and she is also a good contact to reach out to as well. So just kind of going through an agenda for today, we're going to go through a local work group exercise. I do have a couple of success stories from the Mancos and Mesa Conservation District, looking at the fiscal year 23 results and those changes that were made based off of the results that we had gained from participants across the state, as well as what the fiscal year 24 material looks like. So to start off, NRCS has long been focused on that local conservation at the local level. It starts with our founding father, Hugh Hammond Bennett, who said, "I consider soil conservation districts movement one of the most important developments in the whole history of agriculture." And that's still true today. We lean heavily on the partnerships through CACD, CACB, and then, of course, the local conservation districts to find out what is that local voice at the local level and what are the priorities there. So what is a local work group meeting? These are to be held annually, and it's the overarching theme is just to gain producer and partner input on recommendations to NRCS on how we can improve or address different barriers within our conservation activities and programs. And what do we hope to achieve by hosting these meetings? So there's a number of things, but these are the main categories to sum in the overarching theme of we'd look to see how can we determine our state priority resource concerns, which are used within the CSP, the Conservation Stewardship Program, and meeting the requirements for eligibility there. It also helps in determining the state priority conservation practices. States are allowed to pick 10 different practices that they offer and offer higher payment incentives for those 10 practices. It helps us identify those barriers that producers are facing in implementing our conservation programs and how we can help to address those. It helps us pinpoint what outreach needs we may need, as well as recognizing training needs not only for NRCS staff and partners, but our producers as well. So at the meeting in December, we gave a little local work group exercise, and I'm just going to talk briefly about what we did there. But basically, it's how can the local work group meeting help the local producer and partner? So at this meeting, we split the participants into different groups. We had the ag producers, NRCS employees, and conservation district employees as another group. Other conservation groups, such as the local Cattlemen's Association and county government. Each group was given a packet to go over what resources they had and what their main concern was. So for an example, using this, a local fisherman may think that the invasive weeds is limiting his access into his favorite hunting and fishing spots, and that's his main concern. Whereas the producer there at this local work group meeting is concerned about maybe toxicity to his cattle. And as we can see here, 66% of the land is pasture and rangeland. However, a large majority of Gunnison County is publicly owned. And so inviting other groups such as our friends over in Forest Service or BLM would also be some great resources to have at these meetings. But what the intent of this was, and what we're looking at shifting conservation districts over to, is figuring out what is that local problem. Is there one resource concern, such as weeds, that you can address? Is it something different, that where you can get lots of input from different organizations and partners to figure out if we can pull in money, how we can maybe use that concern to build a specific targeted outreach within certain geographical areas within your conservation district, and then work with NRCS and the local resource team lead on their fund pools that they hold locally to address this resource concern. Going through last year's results, I saw that Mancos and Mesa conservation districts had large participants and had some really great data that they had turned into us. And so I had asked Andrea and Cinsa, and I don't think I know Cinsa's not on, and Andrea, if you're on and want to come off mute, you can. But ask both of these districts, what did you guys do to have such a successful meeting? You typically we're seeing maybe 5 to 10 people show up, and it sounds pretty much the same across the state. But in these cases, they had up to 60 people, and they were able to drill down onto that local issue. So both of them said, we didn't stop with just one meeting. We identified our partners that we needed to bring in. And we held several meetings over the course of a couple of months to really drill in and figure out, okay, what is that core problem and how can all of us come together to fix that? I know in the Mancos district, they had heard from previous local work groups that there was a need for doing forestry treatment. And so they built upon that. And now that they have a specialized little area within their conservation district where they're working with Forest Service to treat the forest lands there in that area. So switching just a little bit to the results from our 2023 meetings. We asked all 75 conservation districts to host an annual meeting. We saw 735 individual participants statewide, and these are partners or producers. It does not include NRCS staff or partners that we have within our NRCS offices. So this is truly the feedback from those 735 producers or outside conservation partners that we have across the state. So the first question that we ask is, what is your main resource concern? And I grouped these into just general ag land, which includes our cropland, our rangeland, and then our pasture land. And in NRCS terms, pasture land is those lands that maybe introduce grass species that we irrigate or possibly fertilize throughout the year and not our traditional range settings. So across the state, here's just a quick glance of what producers are saying are their main resource concerns. And within the packet that we'll get out to you guys, if you don't already have it or haven't got it from your local resource team lead at the NRCS office, there is a task worksheet there that will go through what these different resource concerns are and more of a definition of what those are. It's just a tool in your toolbox to use at the local level. But even if you just go, okay, is it soil? Is it water? Is it your animals or plants? That information is good for NRCS as well. And then we can take it and break it into these subcategories if needed. We also asked the same question for forestry. So this is our non-industrial private forest lands and what producers are saying are their main resource concerns there. And this is just a quick snapshot of those. And so then why does NRCS ask for this information? And each year, NRCS is able to pick 8 top priority resource concerns across the state. And this is used mostly within the Conservation Stewardship Program and their eligibility requirements and ranking criteria within that program as well. And so that's why we like to see what the voice of the producer is across the state in determining what these priority resource concerns should be. I will say that once we have the results back from the conservation districts, we do run it through our state technical committee, which is a committee set up with other partners besides CACD and CSCB. It includes like Colorado Cattlemen's and Pheasants Forever, and I mean, you name it. Any of the conservation partners that we have in the state is represented there. And then we also run it through our program advisory committee, which is made up of field office staff across the state, and get their input into these as well. And then finally take it to Clint Evans, our state conservationist, for his final consideration and approval. So then we also asked, okay, what is working really well? Can you, what practices have worked really well within your conservation district? Producers are putting these in and have had great success in those. And so here's just a snapshot of the main ones that we'd received back. On the flip side, we also asked, okay, what is not working so well in your district? And then we also asked to elaborate a little bit more on why it's not working so that we could drill down, okay, is it environmental concerns is why it's not working, or is it more of a training aspect that we need to identify? And so we didn't have very many come back across the state that wasn't working well, but most of it was due to environmental concerns that were beyond, a training need, but still something that we can look at and maybe do some additional training on. Okay, what does a producer need to consider with their prescribed grazing when drought happens? And so we take all of this information, like I mentioned earlier, and identified what our top 10 practices were that were going to be eligible for increased payments to conservation practices. The information was again gathered from the local work group and went through the technical committee as well as the programs committee. So these are the 10 practices that did receive a higher payment rate if a producer was willing to implement this within their operation. We also want to ask, what barriers does the producer see in our conservation programs? And we did see more of a consensus across the state of just the NRCS timelines and communication and understanding those program requirements. Also, a large amount of paperwork is also needed to participate with our funding. But then we also saw, things like many of our offices are understaffed or the cost of material is too expensive. And so we looked as a committee to figure out what can we do to help address these barriers. We also asked for new technology uses that producers are using out there. So I'm going to pull these up. But the reason we ask this is we can, as a state, then take the ideas and suggestions that producers are giving us on what they would like to see and work with our national office to adopt cost scenarios for these different types of technologies in order to be able to offer it in future years. So I can say that Colorado was one of the leading offices or leading states within the last couple of years on virtual fencing, and it is on the docket to be offered as a new scenario in the fiscal year 25 costs. So that's a big win from the local work groups and hearing the voice of the customers. Oh, had a couple more. So then we just give an overarching, okay, is there anything else that you guys want to tell us about our programs out there and what we could do better? And so we did see, again, some more outreach would be great. Funding for smaller acre farms, a quicker turnaround, and just more clarification on what is required for our programs. So with all of that, what did we do with that information and what changes were made for 2024? So we heard that it does take a while from the time of application to the time of funding. So this year we offered all fund pools within the CSP program, as well as 65% of the fund pools in EQIP through Act Now. And Act Now is a process that NRCS can use, which allows for a quicker processing time of applications. So it allows us to take an application, and if it meets an established threshold that we publish, as long as the ranking is at or above that threshold, we can go ahead and pre-approve that application without having to wait for every single application within the state to be ranked within that certain fund pool. We also saw that there was understanding of programs was needed. So in fiscal year 24, resource team leads were tasked to host outreach meetings across the state. We also saw that NRCS timelines could be addressed. And so we set an earlier program application timeline this year and announced signups for both EQIP and CSP in October and November. Also wanted to see more of the local funding. And so within EQIP, each one of our 21 resource teams across the state is given a local fund pool. And within the local work group meetings that you guys all host, it can help determine ranking categories. So, should it be range, crop? Where should the majority of our money be going? It can help establish ranking questions such as, will this application be addressing noxious weeds on rangeland, if that comes out as one of the main concerns producers are having. And then it can also be a suggestion for the percent of allocation per category. So, maybe you want to say, okay, we've got mostly crop and range. Let's just do a 50-50 split, or maybe we want to say a 60-40 split. So just hearing, again, that voice from the conservation districts and our local producers on how they would like to see that funding spent. And then also funding for small acres, we're seeing a boost within our urban ag and small ag farmers. And so in both EQIP and CSP, we have an urban fund pool where they're only competing against those smaller operations and not against those larger operations. So looking into fiscal year 24, I know some of you, I recognize some of the names that are on here and have already had their local work group meetings, but for those of you that have not had those yet, it is the responsibility for the local conservation district to advertise and host a meeting. We encourage you to not only invite your producers, but other conservation partners that you have within the area as well. So, down here in Lamar, I would look at inviting maybe our Parks and Wildlife, our state land board, as other potential people to come in and into these meetings and have their voice be heard as well. We are asking to have these meetings done by June 28th so that we can compile the information and make recommendations for our fiscal year 25. These meetings can be in person, virtual, or a teleconference. And then the main thing is to complete the local work group task worksheet and have that returned to me by July 31st. So that, again, I can compile all of those results and summarize them for needs for fiscal year 25. So in the support packet, I will also get a copy of this over to CACB so that they can post it to their website. But we did send out a letter from Clint Evans, our state conservationist, encouraging conservation districts to host those meetings. So if you have not received that from your local resource team lead from NRCS, get in touch with them. They should have got you one by now. We also have that local work group task guide, so summarizing those results. We did provide the National Planning Partnership guidebook. It's great material in there going over, what an announcement for a local work group may look like, how to kind of organize the data. So just another tool in your toolbox to feel free to use. We do have an optional PowerPoint that you can present to your board members on the importance of a local work group, as well as a PowerPoint for participants as well. We do have the optional survey if you would like to use that. And then the slide does need updated because in December, we had a request from the participants there to include a summary sheet of the prior year changes and accomplishments. And so that is also now included as well. So here is the local work group task guide, again, to be completed after a meeting is held, and it's a summary of the input gained from the meeting. The comments that we receive do affect what we look at changing for considerations for fiscal year 25 and is a good gauge of how fiscal year 24 went. So we are really looking and encouraging you to complete this so that we can get good feedback. We did change it up a bit this year, and we are really looking for that locally led voice and what that locally led project may look like. Oh, here's my here's my next slide. I should have went to it. But again, continuing with that locally led fund pools, how does the conservation district and partners and producers want to see that funding split within those fund pools? Is there any other additional ranking questions or criteria that may need to be developed to help facilitate what that local need is? And then helping to improve again on our efforts for the locally led conservation project. So as a quick summary, local work groups are a very valuable tool that we use within NRCS, and it is the voice of the local producer. It is the voice of the conservation district. It is the voice of our partners on how we can change our NRCS program delivery. It is intended to be locally led and improve upon those local conservation projects. If you guys, without the voice and the support of the conservation districts, we wouldn't know, what those local concerns are. So this is just a great tool for us to learn what those are and help improve and reach all producers within Colorado. So that is all that I had today. Here's my contact information, as well as Liz, another great contact that you guys may be working with as she is our new partner assistant state con. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions if anybody has any.
Great, Amber. And then maybe before we get into any questions, we can Erica Holm from High Desert Mancos area would like to speak on behalf of Mancos
yes, that would be
Conservation
great.
District and how their successes had worked in the past. So Erica, are you with us? She's here.
So say, Erica probably could do better justice than I could. And Erica, if you're trying to talk, there we go. Now you're off mute.
There you go, Erica.
Okay, you guys, I'm so sorry. I was
No.
out doing conservation sales. It always happens at the same time. Okay, so the local work group, when we've traditionally held them, just like at a regular board meeting, we get like 1 or 2 people. So we decided to go to where the people are already going to be. So at these workshops that we already had scheduled, we took the questions to that. And so I think that was where we were really able to get a lot of participation and reach so many more people.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I hope that answered your questions.
Oh, no. Thank you, Erica. And Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can tailor that to kind of be specific to your area and be more streamlined, correct?
Correct. Yep. Yes. And that's what we're really drilling into this year is giving that ability. I don't think a lot of conservation districts in the past, like Erica said, we did it at a board meeting or whatever, and we got maybe 1 or 2 people. And so we're hoping that this year, getting that consistent message of, yes, you can tailor it, to be specific for your area. What is that local concern, and how can we help address that and partner all together, including pulling all of our resources. Maybe NRCS has the funding, and the conservation district and the Forest Service has the staff, or something like that. But yes, we're hoping that getting that more of that local approach is going to help producers see that, oh, okay, yeah, my voice is being heard, and these are what we're seeing being done from these local work groups.
Great. Ashley Grasser from Bent Conservation District had a question. She was asking, when you compile everything, does it still show where stuff came from? She states that the concerns in the southeastern corner of the state are going to be the same as the people in the mountains, etc.
Yes. Yep. Nope. Ashley, great question. So when I compile all of the information, I put it in a spreadsheet, and so I keep each conservation district separate, and then I combine it as an area so that we can look at it as an area wide, and then again at a statewide level. So yes, we can still drill into that local area and see if we need to change it across the state.
Great. Are there any more questions for Amber today?
And I did send the email or the slide deck and then all of those different attachments to Garth. Dustin, I can send it to you as well if you would like me to.
I think Garth might have sent that out earlier. I have to take a look.
Okay.
Okay. We'll get with him. I know he's busy today. I also wanted to put a plug in for CSCB and their partnership with NRCS while we're here. We help facilitate, the field specialist CSCB can help facilitate conservation districts. We can help facilitate those meetings for NRCS and the conservation district. So I want everybody to know that it's on this call that those field specialists are out there, and they can help you and help support your local work group meetings and any efforts that you might have. Pre-work group meeting, post-work group meeting, work group meeting, whatever it takes to get those producers questions heard and answered. So, and I guess, Amber, if there are no more questions, we'd like to thank you for giving your speech today on the local work group meetings. So,
all right, thank you so much, and good luck to everybody. I'm excited to see what we get in this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.